Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team video. As you've guessed from the title, today I'm doing something I've been working towards for a while, where I'm going to do a quarterly review at the tournament statistics for Kill Team, helping to rate, breaking down the stats in a way that I understand them and, well, as the stats show, showing what's doing really well and what's doing really bad from all the competitive results from around the world. But before we get into things, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. What do you think of this stat video and would you like to see more of it? I should also be doing an article with this, which you can find in the episode description. If not, I didn't have time, but I'm hoping I did. But yeah, let's get on with the video. So yeah, as I mentioned, I've been working on this for a while in terms of, someone approached me saying they were collecting stats and wanted to collate it for me and then, collate it for their own purposes and then have me do whatever I wanted with it. Because I did try looking at the stats before, and I do know that I think Glass Half Dead did a video on it a while ago, and Goonhammer does regular articles on it. But I just wanted to do my own take on, what the tournament results are reflecting. And, there isn't much YouTube content on it. So I thought, why not? But yeah, originally I didn't have the time to do it, so I kind of abandoned it. But yeah, this guy called Hot Sauce Teddy from the Honest Wargamer Discord came to me, and he's collated all this data. So now I can break it down for you in a clearly presentable way. So all thanks go to him. But it should be an interesting look and confirmation of things, I think. It's when I saw all the stats, it was a very revealing piece of information. So I hope it'll break it down for everyone else who's interested. Obviously, stats aren't the be-all and end-all, but they help approach the game from a competitive viewpoint, as well as kind of seeing its health overall. But before I go into the full stats, I think I have to break down the problems with the data, because any good research piece will mention the flaws of their data. So obviously the biggest thing is this is all collected from Bespoke's Pairings app. So if you haven't uploaded your tournament information to Bespoke's Pairings, it won't be on here. So it's kind of a downside because it's potentially missing a lot of tournaments. But the majority of tournaments do use Bespoke's Pairings, and yeah, it's the only generally universally agreed upon / used data collection service for the game. So that's what I'm working with. And then the other factor related to BCP is they're quite slow in updating bespoke teams to the app. So you can have situations where older teams are using their older name from the Compendium when they have their own unique name, which the app records. For example, it's like for a while when Pathfinders were released, you could only select the Tau or Tau Hunter Cadre or whatever. So you couldn't select Pathfinders. So there's always going to be that kind of lag. So that's another flaw of the data. And the other thing is just terrain. So terrain is really subjective, but the only reason I'm mentioning this, I'm not trying to be critical or not trying to be dismissive, because terrain is a difficult subject, because it's not easy for TOs to store and even have events. But I kind of feel like I have to mention the American ITC tournament terrain, just because it was effectively what we call in the scene block city. It's all blocks, fixed layouts. I believe because of ITC rulings and they're fixed with their layouts, you have weird interactions such as the boards are mostly heavy with light only really towards the center. You have towers which are like drop zone, which are vantage points near or in the drop zones, and it's just very difficult to traverse. Makes it very hard for melee teams. And, because the kill team is basically designed around L-shaped and U-shaped terrain, with like 1 inch thick walls. But most of these containers are like 3 inches thick. And then you had the weird thing in I think it was the Kill Team Open, where they made containers 2 inches to climb instead of 4, because they apparently wanted to help slower teams by allowed teams to basically pop tart so they could run, shoot, and dash off. And obviously it's great for Harlequins because they have fly. But it's just that's the kind of thing I want to mention. I'm not knocking like the TOs or anything. It for me, it's almost kind of a different game due to their terrain, but it's something to mention. You can't really quantify that. And obviously you have TTS events. I think some are in here, obviously. But then the problem you have with TTS, it's not really a proper representation of the game. It's a simulation. It's very precise, but that's not how the game actually plays. But those are the only downsides to the data. Otherwise, it's just collecting how many people have played in tournaments, and I'll show how it's broken down as I get into it. But yeah, let's get into the tournament data. So yeah, these are the Kill Team tournament statistics for 2022 Q1, effectively. So it's from the last FAQ, which was about the winter FAQ, up until basically last week, just after the Q1 data slate. So hopefully I should have these every quarter after every balanced data slate, so we can see how the stats are being affected by the game as a whole. So yeah, about the data, it's been collected from BCP and includes the following information: player placement, factions, win-losses, draws, event country, and date of the weekend. And we have it broken down into the numbers of rounds, numbers of players, win rate percentage, and meta representation. We haven't got matchup analysis available yet because it's still a lot of data to go through. And then, as per Hot Sauce Teddy's purview, which I'm fine with, we've removed stuff like casual Compendium only events, or like event with only Space Marines, just weird events that don't really represent the game as full. So you may not like that, but I think it shows a better reflection of the game as a whole internationally. So this is where we go over each faction. As you can see, we've got Compendium teams, Bespoke teams, which are the ones in the box, and the White Dwarf teams. So we've got a decent spread. Notably, Broodcoven are the best Compendium team from win rates, although the issue with that is it could be the Wormblade. The problem with that is, as I said when I covered the floor of the data, some people might not have been able to select that, so I've been selecting Broodcoven. It's just an issue, but 4 players, 1 event wins, and then you've got Comorite, which have got a pretty good representation, 28, 51%. And then obviously you've got the Harlequins, the Troopers, with 56 players, 2 wins, 3 undefeated players, and a 50% win rate with a 7.4% meta representation. So they're actually representing a big part of the international meta. Then you've got Forge World from 2 players. So probably one of those is Charles, with 1 event wins. They're a solid Compendium shooting team, so it's not surprising to see them, up so high. Then you've got High Fleet with 47 players, 1 event wins, 1 undefeated. They've got 6.2% meta representation, so once again, they do represent a big chunk of the meta. And yeah, they're pretty good. I can see I'm guessing it's probably because of Gene Stealers, but they're a quite flexible team. You just have to get around the roster. And then going into 5th, you've got Talons of the Emperors, so Custodes. So, they've got a 4.9 meta representation, 37 players with 2 event wins. And, overall, the Compendiums are doing pretty well. They've got a 42% win rate overall, as you can see in the bottom, with a 47% representation, winning 14 events. So, as we can see, a lot of people are still using Compendiums, which is good to see, really. Then we go to the Bespoke teams. And as you can see, I would just like to say, I always knew Novitiates were strong, but I was shocked to see that they have a 64% win rate with a 5.4% meta representation. They have 41 players with 12 event wins and 2 undefeated. And I'm not really unsurprised by that because they effectively don't need to roll dice with fate points, but they're a very strong team overall. And it's really surprising to see that they are the best performing Bespoke team. But yeah, then you've got Vet Guard with just a 60% win rate, which is still really good. 11% meta representation with 85 players and 11 event wins and 3 undefeateds. I don't really like. Well, I mean, it's not. I don't like it. I feel it kind of warps the data when you're just highlighting one player. But obviously, you've got Ace, who's a really good player for Kill Team, who has won several events with them. So obviously he's helping ride up their win rate. But even then, they have a huge representation and they're doing really well, which just shows you how solid Vetguard are. Then you got Pathfinders with a 57% win rate, 8.5% meta representation, 64 players with 7 event wins and 2 undefeated. And then below that, you've got Commandos with 80 players and a 10% representation. But oddly, they're not doing as well as the Vetguard. So they're almost just as popular, but not doing as well. And then we've got just some sneaked in results of Legionnaires. So I kind of don't really want to focus on them because it's just been from one event, but 3 players with a 45% win rate, so not bad. So obviously you've got Bespoke with 56% win rate overall, and only actually being about 36% of the field. So, still outnumbered by Compendium, but compared to the Compendium results, Bespoke teams are doing very well. Then we've got the White Dwarf teams. So, as you may have guessed from my recent videos, I don't think Void Dancer troops, which are the White Dwarf Harlequins, are very balanced. So this is just interesting. It's not really reliable, it's just one event. So they have a 100% win rate. It was just one guy who won the event, wasn't undefeated. Interestingly, there's been 2 more events just from Adepticon gone by on the Thursday and Friday, were 36 players each, I believe, and both won by a single Void Dancer player. So technically they have a 100% win rate from 3 tournaments, but with just one player in each tournament. But it's just anecdotal. We need more data to go off of, but damn. And then you've got Wormblade and Warp Coven, both with the same win rate, 52.7%. Similar representation and very close player usage as well. Very similar results, and that's not surprising. They're very solid, powerful, but balanced kill teams, which generally, ignoring the Harlequins, represent the balance of White Dwarf as a whole. And then you've got the poor Hunter Clades. They've got decent representation, but their win rate is 32.4, which is not great. But what can you do? Obviously, they're the lowest represented out of the 3 factions, but, well, as you know, Compendium, Bespoke, and White Dwarf, but it's not surprising, really. They're too balanced for what they do and just feel like a slightly better Compendium team, but only slightly. And as per country, so Spain obviously has the most events. They are like the monsters. You could argue they're shaping the statistics and the meta of the game. Well, at least for the meta for Spain. They've had a total of 41 events with 529 players. Then you've got America with 16 events and 181 players. Then UK with 2. Obviously, there was a Compendium event, which we excluded, with 26 players. Because this is about, I think, November till, March. So it's missing some of the bigger UK events. And then you've got Italy and Latvia as well. But yeah, Spain leading the way, and then America with lots of tournaments as well. So we've got a grand total of 62 tournaments with a total of 755 players, with an average of 12 players per event. But Spain clearly leading the way because they have huge events with, 6 events with 4 rounds or more. So really impressive there. So this is the overall win rate and faction popularity. As you can see, Void Dancers are up there with 100% win rate. But, it's not really accurate. I would ignore that. We just left it in there because it's there. But yeah, Novitiates, the best performing kill team as a whole. As I've gone over with them, not surprising, they're very strong. Then Vetguard and Brood Coven, and then Pathfinders. Although Wormblade are catching up, so I expect Brood Coven to drop while Wormblade will rise, and Warp Coven doing pretty well. I should probably mention the ideal win rate we should be looking for in terms of a balanced meta is 45% to 55%. That's a pretty healthy win rate for a faction. Anything higher is worrying. When you get to 70% or more, that's just danger levels. And obviously, if you're like 40 or below, it's worrying. And if you're in like the 30 levels, that's not good at all. But as you can see, like everything with 50% and above are Compendium Harlequins, Drukhari, and yeah, oddly Commandos, because they're very popular, but their popularity has brought down their success. Legionnaires not doing too bad. Obviously, we've got no Corsairs, but they're obviously very new. As we get to the more important, closer to 30%, you can see Death Watch, Death Guard, and Hunterclades. Hunterclades notably being the weakest Bespoke team, as in team with 4 rules, which is a shame, but as I said, understandable. Then you've got Cadre Mercenaries, which are Kroot, which, you know, they have a great turn 1, but the game really isn't about turn 1. It's more of a turn 2 onwards game, so that's where they kind of fall apart. Chaos Demons, they are strong and have been doing well, but I think the rise of full Bespoke teams has kind of just taken them apart. Then you've got Hunter Cadre, and I think the only reason they're down this low is just because everyone's gone to Pathfinders. If you were a Tau player, you've switched to Pathfinders, who are just 100% better. And then you got the Craft Worlds with their 16.7% win rate. Who is really surprised? But if you go on the usage side, you know, once again, Vet Guard have an insanely high representation rate with a really good win rate as well. It is above 55%, but I think Vet Guard are very fair. I know some people have been arguing about the Spotter, but I think it's a solid kill team overall. And then as you can see with the Commandos, similar usage, but decent win rates. They're still fine. And Pathfinders have the 3rd highest usage overall, but still a very good win rate despite people deciding not to use them, because I think they've won at least 2 events from this data sample. And I know obviously one of my tournaments, that was only an 8-player event, and I think it should have included it's probably the Spanish results as well. So win rate and faction popularity week by week. As you can see, Bespoke teams have always been the most popular and have the best win rate overall, which makes sense. They're full teams with more rules designed for the game as a whole. White Dwarf teams have been like spiking up and down with usage. It obviously relates to when they're released because they have peaks when they've come out, but they're starting to rise in popularity, and I expect they'll rise more as more people pick up the Void Dancers just because they're very strong. And compendiums are very up and down. You know, they started quite low at 43%, going up, then dipping down to 40, picking up to 51%, then dropping, and then picking up again. They are at a 42% representation, but they are dropping. Like, you can see eventually as more Bespoke teams come out. I mean, Bespokes have had a huge drop as well, but I can see once we get more full teams, I wouldn't be surprised to see more compendium usage tail off. It's just a natural evolution of the game. And yeah, this is win rate and faction popularity for compendiums. As you can see, Brood Coven doing really well, just because I do think it's the selection of people being unable to select the Wormblade. They are a very popular kill team. Not the clearest of data, but as you can see, a lot of Bespoke, compendium teams are doing very well in terms of, obviously you've got the Brood Coven at 58% win rate. Then you've got, what do you call them? You've got 2 kill teams at 50% and one at 44%. So very good to see. Obviously you're seeing more kill teams drop off, but that's expected. And then for Bespoke and White Dwarf, yeah, like Novitiate's leading the way. At one point they were at an 85% win rate. You know, you've got Void Dancers up there 100%, so I'm so psychic, they're completely broken. Commando started off with an 87.5% win rate, and then they've just dropped. Because I think I was chatting to some of the Spanish people, and they were like, the more popular the Commandos have gone, the more it's affected their win rate, which is understandable. And then you've got like, it's just the Legionnaires down there. But overall, the compendiums are doing very well. And excluding Hunterclades, compendiums generally have a 45% win rate or higher. So if you're looking for a good team to do well with in the meta, any compendium team is a great starting point. So yeah, that's pretty much it for all the data. Once again, thanks go to Hot Sauce Teddy and also the Honest Wargamer for all their Age of Sigmar stats, which helped inspire all of this. So check out the Honest Wargamer. They are like the granddaddy of stats. Well, at least, you know, for the way I've presented them. But I hope this was a clear and interesting look at the stats. Very interested by the novitiates. I didn't realize, like, obviously I thought they were quite strong because, you know, their main stats are they have so many faith points. If they roll averagely to decently, like let's say you roll 3 hits on a shooting attack, which you should, or hitting on 3s, and they roll 2 saves and a failure with their fate dice. They can spend 2 faith points, with their faith dice. They can spend 2 faith points to make that failure a success, or they can spend 2 faith points to make a normal success a crit, and then re-roll that one and likely get a success. So they're very hard to kill at ranged, unless you have AP weapons. And even in melee, they're hard to trade with just because of how good they are at manipulating dice. You know, they're 10 operatives, very solid kill team. So I'm kind of happy to see that they're the best performing kill team at the moment from the stats. And I know they're kind of like, everyone's kind of focused on Pathfinders and Vet Guard, and to a lesser extent Harlequins. But yeah, I'm always worried about novitiates. So yeah, comforting to see they're doing so well, but also worrying. They do have a 63% win rate, which is technically above what you'd consider healthy, but I don't think it's dangerous yet. Like, if it was 65, closer to 70, would be more worried, but at the moment, they're just very strong. Then, you know, you got Vet Guard doing really well. Obviously, I've covered Troopers a lot. I think I will be doing my own dedicated video on them. And then, yeah, I think the standout thing with Vet Guard is they're kind of, on paper, they're the more difficult kill team to play, but they're the most popular kill team with the second highest win rate. You know, behind them are Commandos with about 50% win rate, which is still really good, but not as good as Vet Guard. So is it because a lot of good players are flocking to Vet Guard, or just, you know, more people are getting used to playing with 14 operatives and are learning to play the missions better? Interesting thing we can check in the next batch of stats. And then obviously you've got Compendium usage dripping down. The worst performing kill team, I would say, which is worrying, is probably Hunterclades more than the Compendium teams, because eventually the Compendiums are going to be replaced. But Hunterclades, I don't know, they're in a rough spot. They need, as I said, they're too balanced. They would need a relook and rework effectively to get some kind of rise in power. They're not bad. They're just weaker than all the other Compendium teams. I mean, Bespoke teams. But yeah, overall we've seen Bespoke teams with a 45% win rate or higher. So, you know, great usage if you want to play competitively, and Spain is leading the way. We should see more tournaments, especially in the next quarter. You know, we've got, we won't really include the team tournaments because they shouldn't really be included in stats. If they would, they'd be their own stats, but I personally don't like including team events. But we have more events to go off of, because obviously this was during the winter period. So now we're going into spring, so we should get more events and obviously more kill teams. We'll have more results from the the Corsair Void Guard, the Legionary kill team, obviously the Void Dancers, who are doing worryingly well already, which is not surprising for me. A very overtuned team, but I'll save that for another video. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. Please like and subscribe and comment. Let me know what you think, and how are these stats relevant to you? Would you like to see more of these? I should be doing one every quarter, but you know, let me know. It's not set in stone yet, but I'd like to. And once again, all thanks goes to Hot Sauce Teddy. Wouldn't be able to do this without him. But yeah, I have an article version going off all of this, and it's just a really interesting look, because you know, when you see event data and you go like, oh, I've seen this kill team I don't like win an event. Obviously, they're really strong. Now that backs up me 100%. But when you can go, okay, now we've got a wide sample of data. Like, I'm still just really impressed by novitiates. I thought it would have been Pathfinders. I'm not too surprised by the representation, because you've had like top players refusing to use them, that kind of thing. You've had this like a gentleman's agreement in the community. But yeah, we'll have the data slate balance Q1 going into effect, so we'll see how that shakes things up. But it should be really cool. I can't wait for the next one. So yeah, so until next time, despite whatever the stats may say, you can still always roll a crit.